Going to be covering a ton of ground today as I continue to book what would be my fantasy booking build to Money in the Bank 2023 premium live event from the WWE. We're mostly going to talk about Judgment Day trying to take over Raw if I was booking, and how that plays into the heavyweight title with Seth Rollins and the tag titles with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. But a couple of other booking things that won't be tied to Money in the Bank per se. WWE gave the women's tag titles to Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. I think Ronda Rousey in pro wrestling has been the drizzling shits, so I'm not about to put any effort right now into how I would make that more interesting. For me, I would not have the women's tag titles defended at Money in the Bank. But in future months, I'm going to have to try and put effort in how to make the women's tag titles actually be interesting and actually have momentum. That's a hard thing to do, but I will try. Also, WWE seems to be doing a live event in India in a few months, so I have to build up Inder Shir for that. I'd give them a couple of dominating wins over the Viking Raiders to kind of start building them up as a formidable tag team. Sadly for the Viking Raiders, they've been beaten so much lately, I don't know about that. But on to the main topic today, the Judgment Day. We've established Dom and Rhea Ripley versus Natalya and Harry Smith Jr. for England, but there's much more for Judgment Day. This is how I would have booked the June 5th Raw. Seth Rollins would have came out with his title. I think the Rollins character actually needs a lot of fleshing out and has needed a lot of fleshing out for a long time. Right now they just sing his song for minutes and minutes, like 8 minutes, and waste all of our time, honestly. That doesn't make for good TV, in my opinion. Now, they had Damian Priest challenge Seth Rollins, and Rollins are trying to make him the fighting champion on Raw, and he's fighting Damian Priest. But I would have had that kick off Raw, and during the match, I would have actually had Judgment Day surround the ring, and instead of Damian Priest trying to win the title, Judgment Day is actually trying to hurt the champion. It would become a 4-on-1 major beatdown, and like I said in my last video, shout out to Brando Lee, who comments a lot on my videos and talks about how the brawls back in the 80s looked so much more real compared to today. And I said this in my last video, today these wrestlers cannot throw working punches, so the brawls look terrible. So if we're going to have a brawl, I would really wish they would make them learn how to make it look better. So that, but I would have a brawl here, even though it's more of a beatdown on Rollins. Owens and Zayn would make the save, but the damage would be done to Rollins. Also on this Raw, I would have had JD McDonagh versus Tozawa in a, cruiserweight banger that the kids like. I would have JD become brutal towards him at the end of the match, though. And after winning the match, I would have JD try and hurt Tozawa after the match. Now, the next week on the June 12th Raw, Judgment Day are shown backstage in the locker room area discussing destroying Seth Rollins. They're very pleased with that. They hate Owens and Zayn for interfering the beatdown of Rollins. Judgment Day trying to make a statement that they want to take over Monday Night Raw. This is their show. And then you could have Finn Balor also saying he liked what he saw from JD McDonagh last week after he comes up in the conversation. And Judgment Day thinks they should pay a visit to JD McDonagh. Judgment Day would then visit JD in the locker room and wonder if he's interested in joining the Judgment Day. JD is not so sure what they can do for each other, but Judgment Day says total destruction is what they can do for each other. They want to watch JD McDonagh's match tonight. Next up, I would have Sami and Kevin Owens versus Inder Shir, Veer Mahan and Sangha in a match, a non-title match. And since it's a non-title match, even though I complain that this happens a lot, I would have Judgment Day cost Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn the non-title match. And then you could have JD McDonagh versus Apollo Crews. Judgment Day comes down to ringside to watch surrounding the ring. But later during the match,
Burn it down!
Seth Rollins' music hits. He's not here to sing today. He comes out swinging a chair at Judgment Day members. I would have JD still pick up the win despite all this chaos happening at ringside. Despite having a chair, the numbers would overwhelm Rollins, and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn would make the save, though. But at the end of the episode, I would have Judgment Day stand tall and JD McDonagh raising his hand with the rest of the Judgment Day. The June 19th Raw, Judgment Day minus JD McDonagh is out. They are still talking about their plans to take over Raw, and Money in the Bank is when they're going to take over Raw. Finn Balor will take on Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship, and Judgment Day will also get a shot at the tag titles. They then formally introduced their newest member, JD McDonagh. He's already always in black, but he could come out dressed in black. Now, since Dominic and Rhea are busy with Natalya and Harry Smith Jr., JD McDonagh will team up with Damian Priest to go up against the tag team champions. And tonight, JD McDonagh will get a test against Sami Zayn. So I would then have JD McDonagh versus Sami Zayn, which would end in a double disqualification because both Damian Priest and Kevin Owens get involved. Now, once again, to end the June 19th Raw, we have Seth Rollins out. And he doesn't have a lot of time for his song, but, the audience wants to do a song. And I'm sure Rollins likes being over because of his song. But this week, Seth Rollins is more aggressive. He's pissed. And Rollins knows that Rhea and Dom are busy with Natalya. And JD and Priest just went through it with the tag champs. So he calls out Balor one-on-one. Now, once again, this would be the brawl I'm talking about. I don't think that neither Rollins or Balor do good at brawls. But hopefully they can work on that. And you would have them in a brawl alone, fighting into the crowd. Lastly, the June 26th Raw. I've never been a fan of shitty six-man tag matches, but I think it's prominent here that you probably have one with Rollins, Zayn, and Kevin Owens versus Priest, McDonagh, and Finn. All involved have matches with each other at the pay-per-view. I would book the ending to be Finn pinning the champion Rollins after JD hits him with a chair because, the ref is down with a classic ref bump. I've tried to book Judgment Day strong here going into the pay-per-view, always getting the upper hand, looking like formidable foes against these super baby faces at Money in the Bank. And now having a new member in JD McDonagh going into Money in the Bank.